a quiet seaside town, an evil laid to rest centuries ago has risen. An abandoned fortress deep in the swamp holds a secret that could save the village or destroy it. Now, a band of adventurers sets out to dig up the wounds of the past and bring the light of day to the roots of ruin. This is Tabletop Gold.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Tabletop Gold, episode 107, our show, The Roots of Ruin. You're joining us for the 107th installation of that series, our production of the Abomination Vault's Adventure Path for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. This book, called Something or Other, is written by Vanessa Hoskins. My name is Lars Casteen, and I'm joined today by the following people. Robin Lange.
Good evening, or good that time.
Good that time. David the Tin Man Chernicoff.
Good that time. Hello.
Zoe Chernicoff.
Good that time.
And Armat Humphreys.
Good that time.
Okay. Friends, it's time for part 3 of our journey into On the Strip. 2 weeks ago, we talked about towns that we don't like all that much. Last week, we talked about Armat's trip to the state of Nevada and his visit to Michael Heiser's art installation City. And today, we're going to, as promised, continue talking about Armat's trip to Nevada by discussing the city of Las Vegas and the things
Viva.
that Armat did within that. Viva Las, that's right, the town of Viva. The Viva City, they call it.
It is ironic now that I think of it, and we truly did not make this connection before we decided to keep doing the deep dive on Vegas. But of course, the age-old saying is that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But for poor Armat, we're making him lay it out day by day, the whole itinerary.
Hour by hour.
Every
Hour.
lurid detail.
Yeah.
I mean, he's mainly focused on what he did in the desert outside of the
Well,
city.
right. That I think is
Right.
kosher. But today we're going to find out what happened in Vegas.
What happens in
Well.
Vegas leads the podcast.
That's right. Okay, Armat,
Yes.
how do we start with this? Do we talk about Vegas generally, or do we talk about your visit to Meow Wolf? Can we talk about Vegas generally?
Yeah,
If that's okay?
absolutely. I didn't have a whole lot of contact with it, but absolutely.
I just want to share my take on Vegas. That's all. This is all just an excuse for me to say, I'm just trying to get to this thing that I want to say.
Hell yeah.
I don't understand how people go to the Las Vegas Strip and see all of these companies dedicated to taking your money away from you via the act of gambling and believe that they are going to be the ones who win.
I'm the main character, that subreddit all over.
Is that what it is? Because do other people feel that way about gambling? Like when you go to Las Vegas, I went on a trip to Las Vegas when I was in college. I climbed out of the parking garage, looked down the Las Vegas Strip, saw a sign being like, blackjack odds 3 blah 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 to 4 blah 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 blah, and I was like, these people are way more advanced than I am ever going to be on this topic. I will lose. The end. And then I was miserable for the rest of my time there.
Did you gamble and lose a bunch? Is that what happened?
No,
Or like prophecy foretold.
yeah, right.
You should try winning next time. You'll
Yeah,
like
try
it way
winning.
more.
Much more fun.
Is that not how that place strikes people? Like that I just walked into that town and I was like, I'm surrounded by sharks who are way smarter than me, and I'm going to have all of my money taken away.
I think
Yeah.
it strikes some people that way.
I'm living proof of that.
And I think there's, I think there's the kind of, or I can think of 3 ways it strikes people. The first is like what you described.
Great.
The second way is what I think you're reacting to, which is like going way off in the other direction and being like, but I'm the smart one. And then, getting into it and whatever happens, and the house always wins. I think a third way to look at it is that over time you're gonna lose money. And so how fast does that happen? How much money do you lose? How fast? And how much fun are you having as your balance decreases?
Yeah.
If you spend an entire day in a casino and you lose a little bit of money, then you have paid a little bit of money to have an activity that you're enjoying for a very long time. If you go into a casino and you lose a lot of money really fast, you're having an expensive short amount of time. So you're not getting a ton of value for it. Like, I mean, in other words, there's a philosophy to take that's similar to like, whatever, paying to go to a concert or a meal or a sporting event or an escape room, escape the casino, or whatever. That like you're paying for
strategy.
You're paying for a certain amount of fun time, and I don't know. I like playing poker enough that is how I have looked at it. And sometimes I've won money and sometimes I've lost money. But the times when I've lost money, I've like had a sense of how much I was willing to lose over how much an amount of time, and I've never left feeling like I didn't get my money's worth, even if my balance was lower.
I mean, yeah, that's how you do it if you're not addicted to gambling.
That's how you do any enjoyable thing if you're not addicted to that thing.
Yeah, exactly. They make their money off the addicts. Come on.
Yeah.
No, they put a tiny little bit of text at the bottom of their promotional materials that say like, "Hey, gamble responsibly," and then their hands are washed of all culpability.
You're all good.
I think that the thing that's missing for me then is I have trouble imagining. Maybe I'm just too tightly wound. I have trouble imagining what it would feel like to have fun while being completely aware of how systematically outsmarted I am being at every step of the process.
With respect, you love European board games.
Yeah, but when you lose a European board game, Rainer Knizia doesn't come over and pluck a $20 bill out of your wallet.
Well, no, you've spent $180 on the Kickstarter expansion pack.
Well, okay. You didn't have to get personal about this, Zoe. That's outrageous. Anyway, should we talk about Meow Wolf now that I'm burdened myself?
Meow Wolf?
Yeah, what's
Wait,
Meow
Armat,
Wolf?
you did no gambling, right? You're in the no gambling category.
I actually have gambled before, and I like David's take on it. I just didn't this trip. I walked.
You won
into
too
the
much money
Caesars.
last time.
No, I actually
Wasn't
think
fun
the
anymore.
last time I gambled, I did end up winning like $5, which was still a net win, but
For sure.
that was years and years ago. So
So you walked into Caesars, and what casino is Meow Wolf in? Is it in a casino?
it's not in a casino. It's out in this other. It's kind of like the coolest version of a modern mall you can imagine. It's called Area 15.
Oh.
And it's all like 90s, like cyberpunk aesthetics. There's like purple neon lights everywhere. And like there's a zip line ride inside the building outside the Meow Wolf
I've seen that
installation.
place. I know what you're talking about.
It's super cool. I have to say, I was very impressed with it.
Is there a hot topic?
No, but it definitely has that vibe. Like,
Okay.
if I'd been wearing an Atreyu shirt, I would have fit in perfect. It's like a funhouse meets escape room. It was actually very interesting because it has, as I went through it, in this installation, they have more of a plot line that you can find out as you go through the sort of various cool areas. And it really has a lot of overlaps with D&D and like game playing. I have to say, they use the sort of like spatial storytelling. And so you go in, you look for clues, you pick up stuff, or you can just go through it as a funhouse and be like, whoa, this room is weird and cool. And like, look at all the weird fungal growths on this a wall. Or like, this is a really cool.
Yeah,
like,
you lost Lars at fungus. His face fell.
Is the fungal growth thing the D&D part of it, or did this installation Omega Mart by the art collective Meow Wolf have fungal growths on the wall?
Not really fungal on the wall, like not actual, but there were painted sort of Lovecraftian themes in this installation that were super fun, there to enjoy if you dig it, and easy to overlook if you don't. But like, there's this plot line about a corporation called Dram Corp and some sort of succession crisis. And like, your job is to go in and figure out, like, as a new employee, what's going on in Dram Corp. And it there's like, as you might guess from its Area 15 installation space, there's like stuff about an alien connection there, and there's like a skeleton with some wild fungal growths, very Lovecraftian, very psychedelic vibes. It was super fun. The other thing it's like is kind of like a McDonald's play gym, but like for adults. Like,
right, you can like climb through stuff. I feel like it's much more physically interactive than your average escape room, which is like a little physically interactive.
Totally. And that was where I had the most fun, was just being like, oh, there's a cool, weird path from this space up to that other space I was in. And I'd highly recommend.
So it's like you go into this place and it looks like a store, and the deeper you get into this like installation escape room thing that looks like a store, you realize the depths of like mystery and horror lurking within.
I feel
basically.
like it has kind of a like
Totally.
Stranger Things aesthetic, or I've seen more pictures. The Santa Fe one, I think,
Yeah.
is the original, which the collective did first, and now I think there's Denver and Vegas. There's like, but I think they're all different
Yeah.
from each other. And there's a like fridge with an eerie shining light in the Santa Fe one that I've seen Instagram pictures of. And you like walk through the fridge into some sort of other portal.
Ooh.
But it has a very like that one at least has a very Stranger Things kind of vibe to it.
That sounds like one of those speakeasy bars in New York City.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's attached to some other whatever plant store, but you have to know, you go to the back wall and you open the fridge and then you walk into it, and then
There's
You have to-
there's a one on the Upper East Side that's like an ice cream parlor.
there you go.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never gone to anything like this.
You never been to PDT?
Oh, I always wanted to go to. Every time I tried to go to PDT, they were full up, and we never got in.
So you never had the privilege of paying $37
Right.
for a Manhattan.
Well, I know, alas. But at least you got a Criff dog.
I was going to say that's the consolation prize. We used to get those during board game nights, and boy, was that a delight.
And so PDT, for listeners, was a speakeasy in New York where you went to a hot dog shop and then opened a door and suddenly were in a very expensive club.
It was a phone booth, and you had to call into the phone booth to see whether you could get in the first place.
It stood, of course, for
Oh.
please don't tell. And we're going to be systematically eliminated because we've told.
That's right.
Oh, what happens in PDT leads the podcast.
Well, Armat, thanks for the Vegas update. I think that we've hit the end of the road on talking about Las Vegas, which is a shame because I love it. It's one of my favorite topics.
Are we leaving Las Vegas?
We're
now? leaving.
leaving Las Vegas, and don't it feel
Yes.
good? And you know what else feels good is these reviews that people are leaving for us
Woo.
on the various podcast apps. This is how people find out about our show. Thank you so much for everybody who does this. I'm actually going to read today a comment that was left on a video that we left on YouTube, because we put all episodes of this podcast onto YouTube as well. This was a comment that was left on one of our earlier episodes. YouTube user Pazuzu Azelf says, "Hey Lars, the scaling on your hands sounds suspiciously like psoriasis. I have a very similar issue. I highly recommend that you see a dermatologist for a proper diagnosis." And it was really helpful. This was an earlier episode I talked about how like skin hurts my hands or whatever. If you can remember back to the halcyon days of me talking about how
It was the one with the
burns
cream.
how I needed to get a
The-
cream.
Intense cream.
And I just really, sometimes people make comments and it helps spread the word about our show. Sometimes people leave comments and it helps me diagnose a skin disorder. And I'm appreciative of both contributions that our listenership contributes.
Thank you for helping.
And thank you. These transitions are horrible today. For listening to our
Oh, I
game.
love that first one.
Let's go. That was good. That was good. You're back in the town of Otari after a long day of adventuring, and you've made progress on two fronts. Firstly, regarding Doriana, the dream-tormented daughter of Mayor Menhemez. You've discovered that she's been afflicted by a curse meant to isolate and ostracize her from her family, and that the agent of that curse, the so-called Motley Man, is almost certainly lurking somewhere in the lower levels of the Abomination vaults. And secondly, regarding the Sugathi named Jafaki, who has been subjecting Morlocks and other denizens of the Darklands to a series of experiments and processes in the obsessive pursuit of creating the perfect soldier. Ao has just discovered, after some research, that the Sugathis are innately magical creatures with the power to levitate themselves away from attackers. And now, as the evening wears on, the four of you remain in Otari, facing the task of preparing for your most difficult and most personally significant foes yet. So, it's the evening of Serenith the 15th. It is right around 9 o'clock in the evening. Picking up from where we were last time, Isthan, Mag, and Trilphus are leaving the home of Mayor Osif Menhemez, and Ao has just shared with Rin Savinksi her plan to disguise herself as a Grothlet to infiltrate the Sugathi Jafaki's inner lab. So what do you want to do?
So I think Trill is ready to go to sleep. So Trill, 2 episodes ago, absolutely wore herself out. No spell slots left, nothing. She's worn down to the bone. And excuse me,
Bless you.
Talk about a meow wolf.
Psychosomatic.
And after having tried to help Doriana and seeing Isthan, try the whole his whole spell to try and get rid of her curse, and they realized it was a curse. She is now also emotionally exhausted. And so Trill's, as they're leaving Menhemez Manor, Trill says to Isthan and Mac, I need some rest. You guys go do whatever you want. I gotta go back to my room at Crow's Cask and just get some sleep. And Trill trudges off.
I think then Isthan would look to Mag and be like, "Well, I don't mean to presume, but do you want to get a drink?" I totally understand if not, though. Ugh, God, where's the accent tonight?
No, find it.
It's in Vegas. It stayed in Vegas.
Yeah, it clearly
one
did not
thing.
come with me. Do you want to get a drink? I don't mean to presume, but if you'd like to, I could stand you around. Although you did take my drink earlier. So maybe you should stand me around. Anyway, I'm overthinking it.
No, you're thinking the right amount for once. I'd be happy to buy.
Well, let me stand the next one then.
So on the way to Crow's Casks, Mag takes a moment to point out to Isthan some of the features of her hometown that maybe he won't have had a chance to see or notice being a newcomer. She takes a moment to stop someplace between Menhemez Manor and the main road at a scenic overlook, and she's pointing out the Dawnflower Library at the far end of town and where the Giant's Wheel meets the harbor, and she's going into a little of the history and some of the places where Isthan's erstwhile father will have spent some time while he was alive, just to try to paint a little more of a picture of where they are. Let's say they arrive at Crow's Casks and settle in at the bar, which gives Mag an opportunity to ask Isthan, and what about you? Tell me more about your home.
Well, it's a beautiful town, by the way. I meant to say, I've been to a lot of different places that don't seem to have this kind of diversity of people and industry, honestly. I mean, there's a Tengu, you've got the elf with the tiefling horns. It's a remarkable place, really. I grew up in Absalom, which is not far. Anytime you want to go there, I'd love to show you around. The Foray Logos is where I spent a lot of time growing up as a kid because my mum's a librarian there. So I spent a lot of time hunting around in the stacks and finding, wild books that my mum would never have let me look at if she knew I was peeking at them. Which is kind of how I fell into adventuring, I I read all these incredible stories about people going out there and seeing things that nobody had ever seen before and nobody would see again and changing the world for the better. So to me, the Foray Logos always feels a bit like home. Anyway, I'd be delighted to show you around, and my nan's been there for ages and ages. You should hear some of her stories about the old times in Absalom.
I can imagine what some of that must have been like. Iston, I've been wanting to ask you, back in the dungeon beneath the keep, you did something I've not seen before. You used a weapon and you wielded it in an expert way, but you also wielded it with magic. When did you learn you could do that?
Well, it's this particular martial style I follow. Generally, people like me who combine wizardry and martial combat are called magi. There's a bunch of different schools in Absalom that'll teach you. I had a instructor after I read about a magi in a book in the library. Fezziwig, lovely elven gentleman. He taught me this particular style, which is called twisting tree. You know, one of the interesting things about it is it's really just study, you know. It's just training. I mean, same as you. I mean, I've never seen anyone hit as bloody hard as you do, man. I got to say, I was fighting once with an orc, full-blooded orc, I'm saying, not a half orc, a full orc. And well, he was more technical. I mean, I'm not saying that he was one hell of a fighter, but he didn't hit half as hard as you do. You're impressive, Magdaruna. I have to say, I know we kind of got off on a bad foot, but let me get this started. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, says Magaloy.
What a lovely proprietress.
She has quite the magic touch herself.
I believe it. This drink is, well.
Magaloy, which what are we drinking now?
Oh, this is just butter.
Iston's eyes go wide, and like he is so delighted by this fact.
and Magaloy, what ingredients are in a just butter?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It's called just butter, but it's actually a mixture of a highly diverse number of different alcoholic concoctions that I actually brew here behind the bar. And you see as she waves her winged hand over towards the bar, you see a set of beakers and glass pipettes and tubes connected to each other. It's basically a Long Island iced tea is sort of what I'm trying to describe.
Every alcohol imaginable. You know, I thought of Long Island iced teas the other day. There was a time in my life where I could drink one of those and be okay the next day. Isn't that remarkable?
I've never had one.
I mean,
I've
what a
never
terrible
had one.
idea.
They intimidate me too much.
Why? Why do we put gin and rum and tequila and vodka in a drink? Why do we do that?
It's the salad of cocktails.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's sort of you're trying to erase Long Island culture here by asking that question. I
That's
think,
right.
ultimately. They call it iced tea there.
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, ever since Armat kind of started on his story for Iston, I just keep thinking how amazing it would be to live in a world where, like, you read about cool adventures in books and then you actually can, like, grow up and do that. I kind of tried to do that with archaeology, but it's not the same thing at all. Indiana Jones is not a good archaeologist.
For golds.
It
belongs in a museum.
Like, nothing... There's nothing quite that exciting these days anymore, unless you're like off, going off into space or something. But even then, like, you can't just up one day and say, I'm going to go into space. No, you've got to study for years and get funding and do 100 million different things to be able to do that.
Peeing into a paper bag. I mean, all sorts of stuff.
But like, what a cool world this is.
Right? Yeah.
I think sometimes about like what type of person thinks that this world is cool when they live in it? And what type of person thinks that this world is terrifying when they live in it?
Yes, well, that's it. This world can be like that world if you're willing to take on the same amount of extravagant risk that all of these characters do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna free climb whatever I see. You know, like you can do it. You just need to not mind the occasional broken back, I guess.
Right.
Then Magaloy leans in and says,
But if you want, I'll tell you the secret ingredient.
I have to know.
I will admit to more than passing curiosity myself.
she says,
It's just butter.
Walked right into that one.
Iston's mind is blown. Like, he's gone on such an odyssey with all the concoctions and then coming all the way back around. He might actually stand up and start applauding Magaloy, like, not sarcastically, like genuinely enthused by the revelation.
And Mag shakes her head a little bit and offers Iston a glass to for a cheers.
Cheers.
Iston, I think maybe I've spoken and acted too harshly towards you. And I think I've maybe given the wrong impression as a result. I welcome your help here. If you sense from me undue hostility, comes from one of two places. The first is fear. So as we've learned more about what lurks beneath that lighthouse and how each of those horrors could be transported anywhere within the range of that beam, that fear has become almost too much for me to stand. And I can't take the idea of some danger befalling the people here in my hometown or in yours because we fail to act with urgency. The other reason you may sense some hostility from me is that at even very slight provocations, I fly into a rage. And I have an unquenchable need to smash things.
I saw that. Yeah, that was impressive.
Yeah, thanks. It's a double-headed hammer. But anyhow, what I wanted you to know is, whatever your reason for being here, if you're making it your business to go into that foul place and dispatch what's there, then you have a place in our group and a place by my side, and I'm ready to link arms.
Thank you, Mag. That's really lovely and surprising of you to say. And I don't blame you for having your doubts. I seemed like I was off my game for much of today, but I didn't understand what you've been dealing with here. I mean, I've been on adventures, but this is unlike anything I've ever encountered. I mean, I've fought undead, but it's like 3 or 4 shambling corpses in a small town on the outskirts of Ustalov, you know? It's not like what I saw in that place today. It's something darker and more coordinated and vile. Truly, I mean it, vile than anything I've ever dealt with before. And so I don't blame you. Here I was riding in all high and mighty, acting like it was all a lark. Well, I guess I got that kicked out of me pretty good today. You know, I came here more or less on a whim, thinking, you know, maybe I'll find out something about my dad. You know, being a half-elf and all, I always thought, like, I was destined for something special, you know, that my dad was an elf, lived for centuries, that surely that meant there was going to be something great about me. And, well, that hasn't been the case, as I'm sure you've discovered by now, but I thought coming here would help bring me closer to him, maybe, but I think instead it's brought me closer to something truly worthwhile. This might be a place I can really make a difference like my heroes did growing up. Anyway, I've talked too much, but I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be a comrade in arms, and I hope we can continue to have each other's backs and fight together. So, cheers to you, Magdalena. He raises his glass and clinks it gently against hers.
Mag finishes her drink, motions to Magaloy for another round, and as Magaloy brings 2 of her latest concoction, Mag turns the subject toward Istin. If you're here and you want to make a difference, the next thing we have to do is defeat those creatures that we already know are there, lying in wait. And begins to review with Istin everything the party knows about the Sugathi, about the Shanrigal Behemoth, and about the 2 hydras that they've glimpsed from the floor above. And the 2 of them begin discussing and making what might be something of a battle plan, a way to work together, how to comparing notes on their skills, how to combine the things that they each know how to do in the face of those particular enemies.
And Istin takes out a scroll of paper and an enormous peacock quill and is like making notes in on the scroll, like Sugathi, mind fog.
I was going to say, I imagine there's super obvious things like Sugathi equals bad and then like an X through it.
Totally. Yeah.
Shanrigal Behemoth, large.
And occasionally gets distracted and makes a cool S on the paper too. Yeah.
There's a bit on Buffy the Vampire Slayer where Giles, the like lore master librarian guy, is a terrible artist. And every once in a while you see him like try to draw the like villains that they're facing. And it's like a guy with like a happy face that's been crossed out and like a frowny face instead. That's kind of what I'm imagining, Zoe, when you're talking about like incredibly obvious things. It's like,
for sure.
It's like totally a 4th grader drew this thing. It's like bad worm on it.
Yeah, totally. It then has some talents. Art is definitely not one of them.
Okay, so it sounds like that's it for this, the longest day that we have yet done on this podcast. Ooh. We did it, everybody. Let's stretch. Let's take a break. Let's recover some spell slots. Let's
head back to the dungeon.
Let's go. Yeah, let's not talk about anything else, and let's just fight some dudes. The next day is Serenith the 16th. It's a beautiful late spring / early summer day. High 60s. There's a light breeze. No rain for the day. This is not interesting to anybody but me, but Serenith the 16th maps on to June the 16th. We're recording this the evening of June the 12th. So we're in just around the time of year that we are presently recording this in. That's the vibe.
And yes, I said
fun.
Yes, I will. Yes. Add yet another literary illusion on top of it.
I love it.
There it is.
Molly Bloom.
Bloomsday what? Where are my Bloomsday fans out there?
I've never read a book. I don't know what anybody's talking about.
I've never read that book, but I know what book it is that we're referencing.
I don't.
I needed a class to read that book. There is no way I would have made it through it without it. Let me tell you.
That can be our next live stream. We all read Ulysses, and we get really
it's Ulysses.
Yeah, it's Bloomsday.
I thought it was
June
Diary
16th.
of a Wimpy Kid.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they share several structural familiarities. If you okay.
But it's a beautiful day, like I said. But I think that the job that is going to be done today, whether it succeeds or fails, I think is probably looming over everyone's thoughts as you awaken. Look out over the town. People are starting to go about their typical day, oblivious to the suffering that Ao is going through, this obsession that she is nursing, but also just the risk, the danger that the four of you are potentially going to have to put yourselves to in order to track Jafaki down and stop these experiments that it is doing. I don't know if there are more scenes that we want to hit, sort of throwing it out to y'all again.
Mag is like generally very overwhelmed by a feeling that there's a ticking clock, and everything that they've encountered that they haven't dispatched yet is potentially a weapon of mass destruction. So she wants to get back, and I think she is increasingly preoccupied by the idea that only working in concert, like with everybody working in concert, are they going to be able to face these things. So heading back without kind of like making sure that the group is united, I don't think she would be able to do. I mean, we may not even have, I guess we don't even know where Ao is. So maybe the first order of business in the morning is to try to go and get everybody into one place to then make plans, eat, shop, etc. So, Istin, I applaud your adventurous spirit. We need all hands on deck before we're going to be of any use in that dungeon against all those monsters we discussed last night.
Maybe you should handle the social stuff. I've been not so great at that recently. And by recently, I sort of mean my whole life.
My charisma score is incredibly low, guys.
Yeah. That charisma was my dump stat from a very early age.
Just work out.
Work out while
books.
reading a book.
do research.
I love it.
Well, maybe then Mag suggests that Istin go and retrieve Trill and bring her to the Crook's Nook.
With the schnooks.
To try to lure Trill over with the promise of a schnook, and Mag goes to Rin's, where she's hoping is where Ao has ended up.
So let's start with Istin and Trill then. How does when Istin finds Trill, how are Trill's spirits on this new day?
So Trill's come downstairs. She's kind of getting her act together. She's just coming through the front door of Crow's Casks, and she sees Istin. She says, "Oh man, it's a lovely morning, right, Lars? Is that what you're saying?"
It's beautiful. Listen, I think spring is the best season, and I think this is one of the best months.
You said with the dew point. Well, remind me, what was the dew point?
12.
12. Yeah.
That's a good dew point.
Yeah,
It's a lovely morning. Oh, man, I needed that rest.
Really dry.
Okay. Ready? Let's go make a plan.
Here, I got you a cup of coffee.
Oh.
I think it's Magloy's Lightning coffee.
Ooh.
Hold on to this for later.
Looks down at it and just like confused.
McAloy's stuff is best saved for the evening, I think.
So it sort of sounds like we're talking to a whole new Trill on this bright
Trill
and early
needed
on
her
this fresh
rest.
morning.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Trill was still haunted by some of her nightmares. Trill's
Right.
still seeing terrible things happen to her compatriots. Her hair's maybe got a little more colorful, but still that kind of dark gothy color streaks. But here's the thing. Trill woke up this morning and she realized that being mad's not going to solve anything. And so Trill, wanting to do everything she can to still keep people safe, is ready to make a plan.
So it sounds like Trill, without even knowing it, is on the same wavelength as Mag and Istin. Like
I
a
think so,
common
yeah.
purpose uniting at least the three of you.
Yeah.
So let's shift focus over towards Mag and Ao to see what the other side of this pre-reunion group looks like.
And Mag approaches it's like a circle of tent kind of, I don't know, horizontal, like tent flaps and kind of a ring.
I feel like
Am I
spiritually it's a
remembering this right?
geodome in my mind. Like it has
I
that
think
kind of
that's a
hippie
great
vibe.
Oh,
way
what
of
about like
putting
a
it.
buckyball?
I think
Yeah.
it's like a geodome, a buckyball, but it is open to the air, at least during the night, because the connection to the stars is so
It's the
central.
one place in this adventure path you can use your astrology lore. Unfortunately,
right.
for those of us who have it, we're not there that often. But here we are.
AO spent the night just frantically making astrology lore checks, trying to get something of value. You know, here's the thing, and this is where it's like the only person you can blame is me, because I'm like the least astrologically minded person in the world, and I think I don't even have the imagination to come up with what that could be useful for. Not to say that I haven't been trying to come up with useful purposes for
It's a
astrology
tough
lore.
sell when you're buried in the ground. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, right. First thing we're going to do is get as far away from these things as possible.
Yeah. Anyway, so Mag's approaching.
So Mag approaches, and it was a slip of the tongue before. What I meant to say was the open air buckyball, in which
Yeah.
Rid lives and has her commerce.
I think as she's approaching, Ao is sort of. I'm thinking of like distracted Hamlet is the vibe. Ao is sort of coming out of the tent. She's maybe got like a couple of books Rin has given her. She slept fitfully all night, and she's armed with sort of a list of things she thinks she can bring with them into the dungeon to like keep the Sugathi out of her mind. And so maybe she literally like bumps headlong into Mag, who's approaching the open air buckyball. Mag, we have to get it and go. We have to get it and go.
Yes, we do. What is it?
Well, we're gonna need, and she's like sheets of paper going up in the air, and she's like, well, it's simple, see, because before they got in our minds and that slowed us down, we can't have them getting in our minds, and so there's a very easy list of things. Rin and I talked it over, and then I stayed up for a couple of hours longer. So we're gonna need some alchemist fire. We're gonna need some bottled lightning. Well, Tro might want a frost vial. We're gonna need a thunderstone. I don't know if you want an acid flask. And she's like handing Mag all the papers for this. Look, they even have a coupon.
Oh, those are remarkable savings. You have to buy a certain well, yes.
They wouldn't give it to you if it weren't a good deal, Mag. Don't worry about the math. Come on. Well, you're from around here. Where can we get these? Well, they're alchemical. Where do we get alchemical things?
And Mag says, is it
Yeah,
Magaloy?
that's Crow's casks. This is Magaloy stuff.
Well, anything alchemical, I think we need to go to Magaloy to source any of that. But I don't know about you, Ao. I could use a bite to eat first.
And she just sort of looks at her confused, and she's like, to Crow's cask. Okay. Do you think she'll have butter? We could use some butter. Apparently they levitate, Mag. If we get him greasy with butter, maybe he won't be able to levitate. He'll be all slippery, and he'll be so slippery he can't go up.
Never thought this much about butter. So I guess after maybe shopping at Crow's Casks, Mag is going to make an effort to sort of continue bring Ao south to try to meet up with the rest of the group. Ao, I'm all for getting what we need, and I want to make sure we're as well prepared as we can be for what's to come, to overturn the process.
We have to end it forever. We can't just overturn it. Once it's overturned, it could be turned back right, but we have to end it. We have to end it, Mag.
Perhaps extinguish.
Annihilate. And she like grabs Mag by the collar, eyes kind of glowing.
Yes. And I think to do that, we'll need, you'd agree, Ao, all the resources that we have at our disposal?
Those that can be gathered immediately so that we can return to the dungeon? Sure, yeah.
Then we should go this way. And Mag takes Ao by the arm gently, but guides her south toward Crook's Nook.
And in my mind, Ao is like putting all the various potions and alchemical tools that were just procured into her bandolier vest and like getting everything situated.
Right, and each time she needs to free up another slot, she just pulls a random object out and thrusts it at Mag, who takes it gingerly from her and places it in precisely into a very sensible and intuitive location within the bag of holding, in case it's Ao who ends up having to relocate it later, despite the fact that Ao is now not putting it there. It's like, Mag is trying to be considerate of the fact that Ao in the future might be the one who needs to access these items. Even I see a lot of nodding heads.
If you think about it, organizing something is basically time travel, because you are having an impact on people in the future, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Why has the Container Store never explored this marketing strategy? It's genius.
Well, and if you think
That's
about the
good.
implications
Help your future
of that,
self.
Help your
it means that not putting things away in a super thoughtful way is like stealing time from other people.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes, David. I feel so passionately about that.
Same.
Okay, here's my Container Store pitch. There's like a person sitting there in their kitchen eating breakfast. A portal opens up and they're like, "I'm you from the future." And then there's a little bit of confusion. They're like, "What's going on? What's this deal with this person who's me from the future?" And they convince each other. This is a 45-minute long advertisement.
People
It's like the kind that plays as a YouTube pre-roll before
Yeah,
a video
yeah,
you really want to see.
You're going to skip it 15 seconds and you're not going to know what happened. But the version from the future says, "I have to thank you for what you've done for the future by buying these things at the Container Store," right? And then they just make out.
Nice.
Nice.
Whoa.
Do you like
Twist
it?
ending.
Yeah.
Do you like
Paradox?
any notes? No?
Is the making out like 44 minutes and 30 seconds?
It's 44 minutes and 30 seconds exactly. Yes. Okay, anyway. So let's see what
Making out
this
with your future self. Like, I don't think anyone aside from Lars really contemplated that enough.
I did say paradox. That's all I
I don't
got
think
for
it's
that.
fair. I don't see how that could possibly be.
No?
I do hate to say it, but there is a Rick and Morty episode that explores that very question.
So it seems to me that as your present self, if your future self came back and you made out with your future self, that would start a kind of erotic,
Okay.
about your future self, which in turn would become the reason why your future self would want to go back in the past and make out with your past self.
You closed the
Quick
loop.
question. Who here would make out with a copy of themselves?
Nope. I'm out.
Oh, definitely I
No.
would.
I actually think I would. I think I'd be
course.
curious.
Yeah, I'd be
Wow,
curious.
this is like a hard no for me. I don't
don't
even
think-
feel wishy.
I want to know. I want to know what it's like. I want to know what I'm subjecting my wife to.
Subjecting.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel, Lars. Zoe, you should totally make out with yourself. It's great.
Okay.
I don't think I would make out with myself for more than like 32 minutes.
Yeah, I think that maybe
43 is
we've been a
lot.
little overboard on the timing of this particular
Yeah.
thing.
So, what's happening?
Okay,
Mag and Ao are making out? I don't even remember.
No,
I
so
don't have the attention span for that right now.
yeah.
Yes, right.
so some purchases were made at Crow's Casks. I want to dig into that in just a little bit, but Mag and Ao are approaching the bridge that Crook's Nook sits upon as Istin and Trill are enjoying a snook each.
So Trill sees them coming, and Trill's bun starts sparkling a little bit. Trill gets really excited because she's now had time to decompress and process. And she bolts over and runs up to Ao. Ao, I have so many ideas. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you know, we actually had to go to Madame Manor last night, and more terrible things have been happening to Oriana. And oh my gosh, to be able to get to this horrible, horrible man who's doing this curse on her. It's a curse, by the way. We have to destroy the Sugathi so we can get past them, so we can find this motley man and save Doriana.
Jafaki has reached Doriana?
I don't think it's him, but I think he's blocking us from the person who is.
I think he's doing a lot of bad stuff, Trill.
I think so too. I have all these ideas of all these things we need to get so we can work together and we can actually get past this guy.
So we can annihilate him.
Absolutely.
Annihilate. Yes, Trill. I like this. I like where you're at. And she hands Trill a couple of the alchemical things she's procured. These will help us do it. He'll stay out of our minds.
These are great. Oh my gosh, fantastic.
And then she grabs a snook and puts it in her mouth.
as like Trill's kind of cataloging everything that's come.
Mag leans over and whispers to Istin out of earshot of anyone else. This annihilate thing. It's big. We really need to run with it.
Right. Thank you. Good note. I appreciate you warning me ahead of time.
I imagine Istin gets out his peacock feather
Totally.
thing and writes the word annihilate on the bottom.
Annihilate, underlines it 3 times.
Yeah.
And then he whispers back to Matt. Also, these snooks are amazing. And he just stuffs his face full of snook.
And Ale looks at him awkwardly and goes, your dad liked them too. And then walks off.
And I think then you can see Istin just no movement, swallows the snook,
Oh.
moves on.
Still not going to process that.
Someday.
Yeah, maybe.
So before we move on, there's something that I kind of want to do. This is something we haven't done on this show before, but I think it would be fun to do. And that's just to do let's just do some shopping on this tabletop role-playing game podcast that we do together to try to get a sense of what these materials are that everybody got as part of this preparation. The party has, you guys talked ahead of time, and there are a few things that you're selling. You're selling some treasure, you're selling some gear that you found in the dungeon that you have in the bag of holding that you don't need. And in doing that, you currently have about 204 gold pieces worth of cash. As you know, and as the listener will be reminded, Otari is a level 4 town, which means that you can only get items up to level 4 there. That limits the weapons and runes and things that you can get. However, it has a feature that makes it's so well prepped for adventurers because there's so much adventuring happening around this area that you can get consumable items up to level 10. So all of those alchemical items that you were talking about are certainly on the menu, and they're available at Crow's Casks. But I kind of wanted to get a sense of what it is that y'all thought would be helpful, if there's anything that you see as being particularly vital to get for the preparation based on what you know about Sugathis, and if there's any of the stuff that we want to talk through on mic.
I think Mag wants to make sure that the preparations also include anything we might need for the behemoth or the hydras.
Yeah.
I think as far as the Sugathi, Mag herself is good. She will remember that that bludgeoning didn't work so well, so she would probably go into an encounter with them with the new glaive. The best way to strengthen that would be to put another rune on it, but I don't think Mag wants to take the time to do that.
Right.
So I think the glaive is probably the answer for her.
As we're talking about the Hydra, can somebody give me a blind... give me a second. Let me figure out what check to see what it is that you might know about Hydras.
I'm pretty sure there's a Hydra constellation.
I actually totally buy that. You can go ahead and give me astrology lore if you would like to.
Well, that's so pleasing.
Arcana or nature or astrology lore is fine with me.
Ooh, I'll definitely take you up on that arcana.
Okay, so I've gotten blind checks from Ao and from Istin. Here's what Ao knows about Hydras. She knows that the main thing that they are known for is their ability to regrow their heads. They have 5 heads, and if you don't kill a head entirely, it comes back completely to life. She also believes that Hydras are weak to bludgeoning damage.
Sorry, say the head thing again. If you cut it off, it just grows back?
Yeah, if it's so essentially if you target the head of the Hydra, and if you don't kill that head entirely, like each head has its own hit point pool, And any head that is not completely severed returns to full hit points at the end of the creature's turn. It regrows that head.
So it's not just classic Greek mythology where you have to burn the stump.
However, I'll give this to you, Robin, because you're so nice. A Hydra can regrow a severed head using Hydra regeneration, which is another thing which I will not tell you about right now. But you can prevent that by dealing acid or fire damage to the stump to cauterize it.
Good to know.
And that's just because
Knew
you
my
read a
mythology
book.
would come in handy.
All right, so more acid for Mag then. I think if we're already talking about getting acid to for the Sugathi, so maybe Mag will grab a couple extra of those in case she does successfully slash or bash a Hydra head. That
Okay.
makes sense.
So just sort of file that away because we're gonna figure out all of what it is that we're buying. Isthin believes that Hydras are weak to slashing damage.
I'm willing to bet he failed to roll there.
What do you guys remember about the Shanregals that you ran into on the previous floor? Do you have any specific memory of that? I don't recall exactly what it is that you learned about them. I knew that you found that they were weak or that they were resistant to some physical damage. Was there anything else?
I just remember that the behemoth, like, it hears, it maybe doesn't see, but it can hear.
Yes,
So you
it
have
has
to be-
tremor sense.
Okay, so you have to be quiet around it, but it can detect movement, and it seems like we're going to want to be ranging, like doing stuff at range would be, or like to the extent that we can, because I imagine getting close to something that enormous would be risky.
Yeah.
But I don't
The
remember anything else
Shanregals-
mechanical.
Yeah, those were the ones we fought in the cells where Trill got knocked down by them, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was another close call for Trill there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let's get some more recall knowledge then. If anyone wants to give me a occultism or religion check, blind, that would be great.
I could throw an occultism check at this.
I'm not sure there's a Shanregal behemoth constellation, unfortunately.
Alas. Not in our skies, but in the Otari skies.
That's right.
Touche.
And the two of you, Isthin and Trill, as you try to remember more about the behemoth, don't come up with much useful information.
Got it.
With that in mind, what do we know about the Sugathis? We've established. Would you guys walk me through what it is that we know, please?
They suck.
Okay.
They are immune to mental effects.
Right.
And they fuck up our mental effects.
Right. They start by casting a fog thing that means we're confused. We have to pass a check or we get confused and kill each other. And they all can do that because it comes from a gland in their face or something. And
They're very fast. They've got lots of legs. They move really fast, like those awful centipedes that are in my house that my cat's terrified of.
right, their reflex
Oh,
save
no.
was really good, I think.
Yeah, they have a very good reflex save.
They
Yeah,
were.
they're
So
very
tripping them is
hard to
difficult.
trip.
You could get them with piercing and
Right.
slashing, but bludgeoning, I believe, did not work very well.
It was partially or they were resistant to it, but not, I mean, I could hit them some, but not all.
So
Whatever. Yeah.
I think that about. Oh, and you also know, based on Rin's conversation with Ao last night, that they can levitate to get away from you. They have a
Yeah.
strong defensive game.
So, ranged options, good to have.
More range.
So what does that mean we're buying? Given all
Javelins,
this,
baby.
what are we doing?
No!
Javelins.
A ton of javelins.
No! No javelins for you.
Never fails.
So what do you think that means that we're buying? And we can pick up more stuff off mic. You know, I realize I'm sort of putting you on the spot here, but I think that I think given the amount of research, planning, looking ahead, and anticipating this final confrontation with Jafaki that you have done, I think it's kind of interesting to hear how it is that you are preparing in terms of this. It sounds like mostly alchemical gear. So what do we think is on the shopping list?
I think Isthin would suggest that he and Mag get a couple of misform elixirs for the two of them, just so that they can be up front and be taking the hits and hopefully avoiding some of them.
And what does a Mistform elixir do, friend?
So it basically means that anyone targeting you, it gives you concealment, right? And so they have to make a flat check of, I think it's a DC 5 flat check in order to see if the attack or strike actually connects.
So there are 3 kinds of Mistform elixirs. There's a level 4, level 6, and level 10. The level 4 lasts for 3 rounds, so you have to sort of take it in combat and costs 18 gold pieces. The level 6 lasts for a minute and costs 56 gold pieces. So these are relatively pricey.
Yeah, I was thinking we might go for the level 6 because we can pop them before the combat and then just have it. But Istin doesn't have any of his starting money left, so he's depending on the kindness of the party.
Pricey. So I think those probably wouldn't matter against the behemoth, but they could help with the Hydra and certainly with the Sugathi, I'd imagine. Well, I don't know. I'm up for it. I might say the cheaper ones rather than the ones that are 50-60. It's only 3 rounds, but for the start of a fight or the middle if we're really getting our clocks cleaned. I don't know. It makes sense to me. I guess if we have the money, we could spring for the other ones, but I don't know how much we're going to end up with.
The money that you have is 204 gold pieces.
Okay, so
This
that
would
would
be
be
like
a
half our gold.
significant investment then.
We should get other stuff first and see. How much are all these various elixirs going to run us?
I think they're all 10 at the I think the greater level is inaccessible to us, and
Yeah. That goes up to 250.
I might recommend the bottled lightning because it makes the target flat-footed
Yeah.
for, I believe, a round. So that could be great for helping Ao get her sneak attack damage.
Yeah, I think we should get a couple of those. And I also like the frost vial because it slows speed. It can slow them. Right? Is that correct? My understanding of frost vial, it slows?
It doesn't slow in that it takes away their actions. It slows in that it reduces their movement speed.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
So let's talk about bottled lightning, and then we'll move on to frost vials. How many bottled lightnings are you guys going to buy?
Ale wants 2. It seems to me to make sense that maybe someone else has 1 or 2 as well, but that's up to y'all.
Istin has no dex, so complete opposite of the dex build.
Hey, let me tell you something. There was an announcement on the PaizoCon deal that bards get martial proficiency now, so Trill can throw bombs too.
Finally!
These rules changes are really coming through at a great time.
Like, just not being able to, like, softball underhand pitch, like, a ghost charge at something
Did
was
it feel
so
good?
frustrating.
It felt bad. Okay, good.
It felt so bad because I couldn't do it. I was like, every time I try and throw something, it would miss just because
Yeah.
it didn't make sense that I couldn't, like, hit something 10 feet away.
Well, you got him now. Now you got him.
Now I can. Thank God.
So I've got 2 bottled lightnings.
Best little battle
How many
bard.
more beyond those 2?
So Trill will take 2 of those then.
Okay, so we've got 4 bottled lightnings. Bottled lightnings can potentially make the target that you hit with it flat-footed, potentially opening up a lot of options for you. And next we're talking about frost vials.
I think Trill still wants 2 of those.
Okay. So we got 2 frost vials added to the mix. David, you were talking about acid. Do we want to get some acid flasks in here?
Yeah, let's get some acid.
Acid again. Never acid again. Any Meat Beat Manifesto fans out there? Their classic track Acid Again from 1997. Good stuff. Having fun.
I often know these, but that one I can't.
I filled my youth with just the most worthless references that literally nobody cares about.
I care about you. I just don't know the song.
Thanks, David.
I have a question, Lars.
Okay.
So, Thunderstone, so it's sonic damage
Yes.
and possibly can deafen, which would kill spell casting theoretically. Can you explain that to me more? Because I have Haunting Him, and I haven't quite yet figured out how to make that effective. Can Haunting Him actually make it impossible for anyone with an auditory trait spell to not cast their spell?
Yeah, so spells with verbal components have the auditory trait, and being deafened means that you have to make a DC 5 flat check to get the spell out. So it's it doesn't stop spellcasting, but
gives a
it does
25%
Make it harder.
Yes.
failure chance. That's good.
The tricky thing about haunting him is I've got to be in a spot where there's no one else from my party within the 15-foot like the 15-foot cone.
And you got to be close. 15-foot cone is not a lot of distance.
So you got to like
Awesome.
run up and do it and then run
Yeah,
back.
kind of.
Yeah.
If you've got like haste and you get an extra move action, you can potentially run in, blast people, and then run away. But until then, it is very difficult to get off.
Is there something alchemical that would get me haste?
Well, maybe not alchemical, but there is probably a potion of haste. That's probably an item that exists. Potion of Quickness is a level 8 magical item that costs 90 gold pieces and gives you the effects of haste for 1 minute. So that maybe is not on the menu yet.
Haste is an extra action.
Yeah, haste is an extra action that you have to use either for striking or striding.
Cool.
Yeah, it's good. it's very
Yeah.
good.
Why haven't I chosen to get haste? That's a great spell.
Yeah. Istin can cast it, but he prepped to dispel magics last night in his highest level slot.
You can't re-prep this morning?
Of course.
I don't think so.
Oh, Armat playing
Oh,
the playing the honor roll game. No, just kidding.
I set you up for success.
For playing with honor.
Well, you let me prep my spells ahead of time. I feel like, I prep those spells. I got to stick with them.
I'm just very into this new move of using a hero point drop to silence somebody and stop them from making the choices that they want to. We're learning things. Even in episode 107, you figure something out,
Yeah. New tricks.
Okay, is there anything else? We've talked a lot about alchemical bombs. Are there any other bombs that we want to get?
I just want to clarify. I'm getting 1 alchemist fire, 2 bottled lightnings, and 1 thunderstone, which are all
Okay.
alchemical bombs. But
I'll pick up the Thunderstone. I don't think I had that, but we're gonna throw that into the bag of holding as well. Thunderstone, which does sonic damage and can potentially deafen. Interesting choice. Okay, so it seems like we've got a bunch of bombs now. Is there anything else that we want to get?
I might argue for 2, 1 for Mag, 1 for Istin of the higher level Mistform elixir. Because that's like an entire fight's worth of a 25% failure chance on any strike. And if we're tanking, that could be really good. And we could alternate who uses it in a fight too. So that would be half of our gold though. So I don't know
Yeah.
if that argument holds water.
I'm only hesitating because I don't know if the concealment is going to matter with the behemoth. I think we're going to do the most like we're hanging out up front against something that can mash us against that thing, but it can't see us anyway. It's using tremor sense.
Yeah, I think you might be right, David.
Oh,
I think
I'm
you might
delighted to be corrected.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Mistform Elixir has the visual trait. If this thing uses tremor sense, I don't think that Mistform Elixir is going to matter to it.
It would make sense that
Of
it
course.
wouldn't matter
Yeah,
if
that
you
does make sense.
looked
I
misty.
didn't even think of it
Yeah.
that way. Good call. All right. Yeah.
I mean,
then
if we think we need him for the Suga, I don't know. We kind of did pretty well against the first one. Maybe I'm getting cocky, but we were unprepared for and dispatched one of these. I guess it was probably less powerful, but we're full up. We're geared up. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we can call it there.
If you guys change your minds, you can tell me. You can tell me before the next time we play. Just if there's anything that you want the audience to know that you have, that's something that we should bring up now.
Okay.
Mike, didn't you want a bola?
Ah, yes. We talked about, ranged trip. Mag would be interested in a ranged weapon. She has hammers that she can throw, so that's fun. But something like that can trip at 20 feet seems like a good addition to
All
the
right.
arsenal.
Ebola added to the mix. We've now got Ebola.
Wait.
Oh, is that...
Fuck.
Yikes.
Are you saying we're in the hot zone now?
Yep, you're in the hot zone. Anything else? Any other alchemical elixirs? Anything like that?
What about a scroll of haste or 2? 30 gold?
I like that.
Sure.
Also, a scroll of slow could be good too.
Yes, I like the way you think.
Okay, so we're looking at a scroll of haste. You're able to swing by Morlabint's shop and pick this up on the way out as well. As you pick up a scroll for 30 gold pieces of haste.
Lars,
Yeah.
Zoe reminding me about the bola reminded me about the other thing that I thought of before this,
Sure.
which is Bravo's Brute.
Oh yeah, God, that was so good for you before.
It was good for me before in a fight where then there didn't turn out to be as many mental effects as I thought, but we were about to go into one with plenty, so
All right.
that should happen. And if there's any way that I can take it before the initiative, I am gonna try, and if not, I hope it's a good initiative roll.
Bravo's Brew lasts for an hour after you drink it, so there's some flexibility there for sure. Each one of those is going to cost 7 gold pieces. What do you want?
I'll take 2 Bravo's Brews, please.
It takes 2 to make
Extra
a thing
butter.
go right.
It takes 2 to make it head aside.
Armat, you had one other scroll. You wanted a scroll of slow?
That would be awesome.
All right.
If folks are willing to float Isthin
Do it.
the gold.
Oh yes, we float.
Do you want to buy Isthin a scroll of the best spell in the game? You do? Okay, great.
We do.
So after a flurry of shopping, which includes many alchemical bombs, some Bravo's brews, some scrolls, a few new weapons to attack with, what are you guys going to do?
I would think we would head back down to what level were we on? 5? 6.
Yeah, 6.
I can't imagine Ao would let us do anything else.
No, agreed. Yes, she's like, well, we've got it all. Everyone had you. And she's like patting her pockets.
Hey, don't go so fast. I gotta keep up. My legs aren't that
Meg,
long.
put her in your pouch. We don't have time for this.
And as the 4 of you head back to Gauntlight, visions of Sugathi filling your heads and new alchemical options to neutralize those Sugathi filling your pouches. We will pick up with the first strike back against the Sugathi next time.
Going to annihilate them, right?
Yes. Roots of Ruin is a Tabletop Gold production produced under the Paizo Incorporated Community Use Policy, using trademarks and copyrights owned by Paizo that are covered under that policy. Paizo does not recognize, endorse, or sponsor this project in any way, and we are expressly prohibited from charging you to use or access this content. For more information about Paizo Inc. and Paizo products, visit paizo.com. All original characters and content in the Roots of Ruin are the property of Tabletop Gold, and all rights are reserved. We at Tabletop Gold would love to hear from you. On our website, tabletopgold.com, you can learn more about us and our shows, pick up great merch, and connect to the best online community in all of podcasting. Thanks for listening.